Take it away, Kevin.
Everybody, welcome to the Ask the Experts. I talk much. Does anybody have any questions?
How do we make Zoom work?
And use TeamViewer.
Sorry about that. I couldn't.
That'll be a good research project to play with one day. Roger, maybe we could get together one day and just play.
Yeah, we can do that. Or we could actually put in a request to take it to Zoom.
Yeah,
I could call my 10-year-old granddaughter. She helped me last summer.
you used to be that way with Rubik's cubes.
Well, you know, she's been using Zoom for what, 2 or 3 years now. I mean, she knows how to make it work. So,
Kevin, I have something I shared on the groups. I had on my iPad, let's see, iPad 11, I guess it is, 11-inch Pro. I thought it died. It just sat there black.
And you did the reset.
And what I did is I did the normal reset on it and it wouldn't reset. So I went to YouTube and I put a link in the groups folder there. But it was really interesting that what worked is that I tapped the volume down, tapped the volume up, and then held the power on switch. And lo and behold, it restarted. Never saw that one before.
That also, believe it or not, yeah, that also works on iPhones. It's the actual reset instead of a restart.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise, but I'm going, hey, you know what? This old dog learned another new trick. So
you're not the only one. I've been seeing a lot of talk about it this last week or so. Same.
That's good. That's good. That's what the club's all about, right?
I posted something on as well, but never got a reaction. My, what is it? The volume on alarms, for example, is very soft. When I set it, when I choose go to any other sound, it sounds real good until I set it and set the alarm.
What you need to do on that, Tommy, is turn off, and this is on your iPhone.
Yes.
You got to turn off change volume with side buttons. Okay. And what that'll do, that'll change the volume that will block you from changing the volume for the ringer, but it'll allow you to change the volume for other things. And what happens is with that checked on, you'll change the volume for your ringer, thinking you're only changing it for the ringer, but it changes it for other things.
Where is this?
It's in your settings under sounds. There's a button that says use side buttons for volume control. You want to turn that off and then set your volume control with the slider. And then you could use the side buttons for volumes within apps. So like when you're in your alarm and when you're first setting your alarm, you could use the side buttons to set the volume of that. Another thing.
I lost you. You went mute. I don't hear him. Do you hear him, people? You're gone, Kevin.
I think he dropped out. I don't see him on the screen here.
No, he's still on the screen.
He's there. He's talking to us, but we can't hear him.
Did your battery die on your Bluetooth?
Right. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, let me just close the door here. I had to switch to the microphone on this screen. For some reason, my Bluetooth auto muted, which is a problem that's been known with Zoom and headsets. What I was saying, Tommy, is that if you turn off the change volume on the side, that's basically just for ringer volume. And it'll let you set the volume. So when you change your volume on the side, it should change it for your alarm. And you also need to make sure that you don't have a focus on. that some of the focus will lower alarms as well.
But it doesn't, I just turned it off and it didn't make any difference, or at least it's still soft, and the only focus I have is a do not disturb that is not on right now.
Okay, when you say it's soft, did you select the ringtone for the alarm?
I have a timer here, and when I start it, it just barely sounds. So then I go and choose any other sound, and it's real loud. And I set it to that sound and put my alarm, and then I can barely hear it.
Tommy, I've found that at least in Apple CarPlay, for me, that there is more than one volume adjustment. There's the adjustment for the regular, if I'm listening to a podcast, and there's an adjustment for when the maps are trying to give me turn left in, a quarter mile or whatever. That's a separate sound adjustment. In the car, if I change the volume at that time, I see it comes up and it says prompt volume, and you can get that higher. And so my suggestion is set an alarm for 2 minutes from now. And when it starts to ring,
That's when you change.
try pressing the up volume button and see if it changes.
Okay,
That's exactly what I was getting at before.
Sorry, Kevin. I guess I
Kevin,
wasn't.
I want to change with buttons off. Is that right?
Yes, you want to, can you hear me now?
I
Yeah,
can hear you.
Okay, yeah, you want to change that off because what happens is when that's on, when you change the volume on one thing, it changes your ringer volume and it changes everything.
I see.
That turned off, then the individual apps will have independent volume control. So when your timer goes off and you hear that sound, then you could raise the volume while that sound is playing and set it.
Does that also affect your ringer? I was trying to talk to AT&T a while back, and she kept calling me and I didn't hear her call, and she accused me of not being available or whatever.
Well, again, the ringer, if you had that option turned on and you lowered the volume on another app, it'll lower the sound on the ringer.
So.
So
Okay.
that's why you want to have that turned off.
That's kind of dumb, isn't it?
It is kind of stupid. And I've had to explain that to people before. It's like, just turn this off and ignore it. But I want to change the volume. It's the ringer volume. Well, don't just.
So Bob brought up something, and that's CarPlay. I just got a new car that has CarPlay, and I'm still trying to figure out how to make it work. And I haven't been able to find any good tutorials or anything to explain all of that. So
All you do is you plug your, is it wireless or wired?
it's built into the car.
Right, but there's two types of CarPlay. There's wireless CarPlay and there's wired CarPlay.
I guess it's wireless because it's talking to my phone.
Okay, if it's phone, all you do is you tap the CarPlay button and it'll ask you to connect your iPhone and
Yeah.
just follow the prompts on the screen. If it's wired, you have to plug your iPhone into the car, into the CarPlay port.
Well, see, reason I'm asking is Bob mentioned that he saw something in the preferences about setting the volume or something. I don't think I've seen that yet.
Actually not, Gerald. What
Oh, I'm sorry.
what I'm trying to say, I'll try again. Maybe I'll be understandable, is if I'm listening to a podcast
Uh-huh.
and I go volume up or volume down, it says volume up, volume down. If the phone rings and I go volume up, volume down, it'll say ringer volume, and it shows you changing that. It's this
Oh, I see.
round thing in the middle of the screen with a number in the middle, and kind of goes up and down.
So you're
Yeah.
asking Siri to make these changes for you. That's
No,
right.
I'm using the volume controls on my steering wheel.
Oh, okay.
And if I'm navigating with maps and it says turn right at the next light. That's another independent volume. I generally have that higher. So even if I'm in traffic or whatever, that kind of blasts through everything else and says, you're take the next exit. So my Ford has wired CarPlay. The newest thing is wireless CarPlay, but I'd rather have wired because it forces me to plug in the phone so it's recharging. And then I know that it's kind of taking over that display in the middle of my dash. And when I get back to the car, I get out of the car to go to the grocery store, I take my phone with me because that's where my grocery list is. When I get back to my car, it forces me to plug it in again, which means I know that I have the phone with me. I can't leave it behind. One time I left it behind at a gas station, but I only left it behind for a moment because I can't plug in my phone because I get in the car, I plug in the phone. I get out of the car, I unplug the phone and put it in my holster. So to me, wired CarPlay is a little more fiddly, but to me, it's more secure.
And I can understand that too. I had a day here a while back when I had a bunch of errands to do. So I'm driving all around my area and I'm listening to CarPlay the whole time with my phone in my pocket. I decided, well, I've got time to go to the Apple store. I'm going to go over to the Apple store and ask about this question. So I go over there and the guy said, you don't have any power in your battery.
Oh,
because I didn't
okay.
have it plugged in. I never even thought about it,
But your
Well-
battery, you see, and I'm the exact opposite because I love wireless CarPlay. Your battery should have enough power to last a day plus. Or with the newer phones, like I have a MagSafe on my phone. I also have a MagSafe car mount. So I just take my phone out of my pocket or out of its case and I pop it on the car mount. It's always there right under the dash. I know it's there. So if I go and I go to put it there and it's not on my belt, I know I left it somewhere. So
Yeah. So,
that's the other
it's
thing too.
it
If I
becomes
get
what-
in my car and I don't have my phone, it lets me know right away.
yeah, it depends on what habit you're used to, I guess.
exactly. And was it Tommy who was having an issue with getting CarPlay to work? Was that you, Tommy?
No. My issue is just the sounds, and everything you've suggested so far hasn't worked.
Okay, who got a new car and has CarPlay and has had trouble connecting?
Gerald.
That's you, Gerald?
No,
Okay.
it's connected. It's connected, but I'm having problems getting Siri to do what I want her to do all the time. So I'm learning about that. But
So
I can listen to my favorite radio station on iHeart. I can listen to my music.
And does it
She's there
display?
all the time, so she's there to help me direct me if I need directions
Okay.
on the map. It's great.
Does it show up? Does the map show up on the
Yes.
screen in your
Yes.
car?
Yes,
Then you probably have wireless CarPlay. I do not.
Wireless
I'm
CarPlay,
certain
you
that's
could
what
add
it
Bob with a dongle. That's what I did. And Siri is the same whether it's in CarPlay or not. The only difference is you have to use the speech button on your car to enable while CarPlay is using. If you use your CarPlay, the Siri button on your phone, there's a delay between that and CarPlay because it's not sure which device you're asking it to do the request from.
Right.
I haven't seen that.
And in addition to that, you have to look at your phone probably to get Siri to press the Siri button. Whereas if it's on your steering wheel, after 100 times, I know where that button is without looking at it.
The button's on my steering wheel. I push it for 3 seconds and there she is. If I push it for 1 second, I get talked to the car.
Okay,
Kind of amazing to me.
okay. Well, great. Gerald, have we answered your question?
I think for now, yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anybody else? Anybody else have a question? Kurt
I've got a
does.
question. A few days ago, I was on a Zoom call, and one of the choices at the bottom of the screen was closed captions. And you push that, and all of a sudden, there's a little box that appears, and through the miracles of voice to text, everything that was being talked about all of a sudden shows up as captions. The question that I think is, or the answer I think is correct, is this is something that has to be set by the host. I was in a meeting last night, and that closed caption choice was not there, and tonight it's not there. But is this something that you can set, Roger?
Let me check.
Because the little closed caption box is terrific, and you can grab it and drag it around the screen wherever you want it. And so in my case, I like to put it right at the very top of the screen so that I look like I'm looking into the camera instead of down here somewhere. That worked out really well, particularly for people who don't have their volume turned up very high, and it's hard to hear them. The voice to text thing is just amazingly accurate. So it's really a good feature if it's available.
So is there a setting or something in preferences that would allow it to do that? I saw
Well,
it happen one time and I haven't seen it since.
Right. I think this is a setting. I don't know if the host has control over I'm looking at 7 choices down here at the bottom of my screen.
Under accessibility.
What's that?
If you go into your preferences, the options are under accessibility, but I think Roger has to turn accessibility features on.
Okay.
And I think that perhaps that is also something that's only available with a higher level, higher level subscription.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm looking at my settings and it says closed captioning, but it doesn't say you can turn it on. I think that needs to appear like you said, Kurt, at the bottom of the window,
Right.
Like participants chat, closed caption, screen share.
Each participant can choose to turn those captions on or off. But the choice has to appear, and I think that is the host, or maybe the tier that
The host has to set it in the meeting.
What's that?
It's the host has to set it in the meeting.
Okay.
It's advanced. It's in meeting and then advanced.
Does that require a business account, Tony?
I don't think
It
so.
doesn't say that it does. But Zoom is really bad about saying what level of account is required for features. They just don't show up if you don't have the right level account.
Well, I'm looking at accessibility that says closed captioning and it says font size, but it doesn't say turn it on or turn it off or anything that I.
It would be.
You can slide the font size.
The host.
You can slide the font size and it'll change.
Yeah, you can. That works. That works really well. You can't change the size of the box, but you can change the size of the type in the box.
But it doesn't allow me to choose the box.
Right. I think that is something that
That's
the
the
host has
problem.
to enable, and the host may not be able to enable that until you get to a certain tier of subscription.
Right.
It's interesting though, Kurt, you mentioned how accurate it is, because I found it varies widely
It does.
online
It
when
does.
it's using it. Some of it is just not usable. But
Well,
that's really good to know.
yeah, especially when we're talking about geeky things. you start to talk about, USB-C and whatever, all these things. I don't know how voice to text works on that, but well, you've watched, I don't know what, a sporting event or something on television, and they're running closed captions, and sometimes they're good, and sometimes they make just horrendous mistakes. But generally speaking, it's pretty good.
Well, Siri can make a mistake now and again too.
Oh yeah.
Today, Gretchen was in her car and she sent me a message through Siri that I don't have to go to the grocery store. She's going to stop on her way home to pick up mattress. And she meant to say, what she said was lettuce, but it came out mattress.
Well, the way Siri was explained to me, or I should say autocorrect was explained to me, was that Apple worked really hard to get this little leprechaun shoved into your phone. Unfortunately, the leprechaun was drunk.
I think that's an Irish joke, and
But anybody else have any questions?
Kevin, when I'm about to get a new iPhone 14 and Pro Max, and you guys mentioning CarPlay, I don't think my 2018 Nissan Rogue supports wireless. And is there any risk of overcharging by constantly plugging in anytime I'm driving?
No.
Well, it's yes and no. Here's the problem with plugging in charging versus MagSafe charging. Okay, when you're plugging it in, especially in a car, your car will get hot. So it's plugged in, it's hot, it's charging, it can damage the battery. That is the one downside of plugging it in. I did a lot of research, and what I ended up doing on mine is I got a MagSafe car mount that does low wattage. So it doesn't always charge. But ever since iOS 16 came out, when I'm in my car and it's charging, I've gotten messages on my screen, the ambient temperature is too warm to charge your phone.
Is your car mount on the windshield? Does this sunshine
No,
on it?
it's actually low on the dash. It doesn't even have direct sunlight where the phone was. But apparently I got in my car last week or a couple of weeks ago, and it was really hot in my car. I dropped it on the charger, and I guess the charger itself was hot because of the heat in the car. And I got a message saying that your phone will, I forgot the exact wording, like your phone will start charging when the phone cools down or something to that effect. And then after I had the AC on, after about 15 minutes of driving, I heard the beep that it started charging.
Okay, because I've driven cross country a couple times in my Ford in the before times, and the phone was always plugged in to give me maps and so forth, and I did not notice that the phone was unduly warm when I picked it up out of, there's a little cubby hole in my car that I can drop it into, and I did not notice that it was unduly warm when I pulled it out of there after several hours of being plugged in.
Yeah, I remember on the old phones, the first phone I used maps on, I didn't have CarPlay, and I used to plug my phone in, and the maps program used so much power on the old phones that it actually drained your battery more than it was charging it.
Well, maybe that's the ticket. You have maps giving you directions and you're playing podcasts at the same time, and you're using enough juice that you're not going to overcharge.
Yeah, but Chris, if you want to get a wireless dongle, I would highly recommend it. The new phones are designed to last all day plus. So unless you're in your car for 24 hours driving cross country all the time, using it wirelessly is just, to me, is ideal.
Okay. Well,
I'm not
Chris,
sure my car supports it though.
If it doesn't, you buy a little dongle. They're about $100. And it plugs into the port that your CarPlay would normally plug into. And then your car looks at it as an iPhone connected, and it'll come up, and you just follow the prompts of connecting that to your iPhone.
Oh,
And what I did on mine is I have a right angle adapter plugged into, I also have a Nissan. So, you know, under the dash, how you have those USB
Right.
behind the cup? I have a USB cable going straight up, which goes behind the dash, and I put the dongle behind the dashboard, so I don't even see it.
oh. That's interesting. Okay.
Well, Chris, the important question is, so you're getting a 14 Pro Max, what color?
Deep purple, of course.
Of course.
I mean, is there a different one? Apparently the space black is #1 from what I heard.
I saw it.
Purple one gets lots of fingerprints too.
But then you're going to put a case around it, right?
The thing is, I'm getting this killer, I've actually already got it. This killer case from Zag. It's a clear case, and it's got this ring thingy on the back.
That's MagSafe.
Right.
Yeah, and this thing can twist around so it can be a stand, or I'm going to try to use it as a gimbal for, you know, so I can hold the phone with one hand to be able to do, because my right hand's getting a little shakier than the left hand. So maybe this will work. And this thing actually comes off too. It's a pretty heavy magnet. I wouldn't put it around anything else, but apparently it's all right with the storage on the phone. But yeah, this is good for 4 meters, 13-foot drop. So I guess if you're halfway up a mountain and you drop your phone, hopefully it doesn't fall further than 13 feet.
What are you upgrading from?
An iPhone XR,
Okay.
which by the way, used to
jump.
get really hot. Yep. Yeah, I got the blue one as well. You sure you don't have mine, Bob? Okay.
Gee, I don't think so.
My daughter and her husband accidentally got the same color iPhones. And one day one of them picked up the wrong phone and went to work. They both went to work. Doesn't work. Not a good deal. But this guy gets really hot in the car when I plug it into for CarPlay. And I'm not sure why, if it's the case or what, but I was reading, I think in Mac Rumors, that heat on batteries is definitely a bad thing.
Not a good
So
thing.
it's definitely to be avoided.
Interesting story. We have twin daughters, and they both can open each other's phones with face recognition.
I've heard that.
Well, you're allowed to have two faces on there now.
You can set it.
You can. It's just that the two of them are able to do this with no special settings. They just
Are they twins?
they're twins.
Yeah, that's why. Cool.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah,
they need
but-
fingerprint behind the screen, and it's not there yet.
So some interesting stuff came up for me over the last few weeks. I wanted to, I don't know if this is the place to mention it. A lot of people are using mesh routers, but using mesh routers not the way that they're intended to be used. Are you aware, like Bob, since you use them, every mesh, every router or node is designed so that it has to be placed so that it can communicate with 2 to 3 nodes minimum.
Well, I only have 3 nodes.
So they have to be set where, if you only have 3, they have to be set in places where all 3 can communicate to each other.
So not
Otherwise, you're using it as an extender and not a mesh.
so not a single daisy chain isn't going to work then.
Exactly, and that's what a lot of people are doing. I have a client I've been working with for the last week. He has 6 of the Linksys Velops throughout his house. He had 100 megabits in his office. In the back of his house, he had 3 megabits down.
Mm.
So,
But he had Ethernet ran to all the rooms. So what I did is I set up Synologies and I set them up as access points instead of as a mesh. So they're in, like when you go to a hospital, you know how they have the antennas that come down from the ceilings. Those are access points, so you can go from place to place like a mesh, but they don't need to communicate to anything else
Yeah, they're hardwired.
because they're hardwired. And he had these meshes set out where you had one here, he had 6 of them, one here, one here, one here, one here. The other way it went out one here, and then one over here. And as you get further away from his office, the signal was getting slower and slower and slower because they were just being used as repeaters instead of as a true mesh.
I haven't seen that problem here. I do have the main one here in my office, which is middle of the house-ish, and then one at the edge of the house this way and one at the edge of the house that way. And I don't think that the one in Gretchen's studio is any slower than the one I have here in my studio.
You might want to double check that. And again, it depends on the size of the house.
Right.
You know,
So how would I test this, Kevin?
you walk around, check your Wi-Fi speeds from one section to the other as you're walking around.
With a iPhone.
And iPhones work best, I think.
Well,
Or if you want to use a Mac, there's software called NetSpot that you can use on a Mac.
I have a fairly small house, but I have the main one sitting right here next to me. The other one is out in the great room where the big TV is, and my wife's computer. We don't have any problem using it.
How many square feet do you have?
About 17 and a half.
You don't need a mesh then. Meshes, you do not need a mesh anything under 2,200 square feet.
Well, except that I don't have any internet out where that TV is if I don't have some kind of an extender.
Or a better router.
And a three, what do they call it? Not 3 channels, three-way mesh seemed like the better idea to me.
Yeah, so you may just be using them like as a repeater, like what Bob is doing, because they're going from here to there, just going out each way.
And that could
Good
be
solid router. I was over at Susan, who's here but not here, at her house, and she had a mesh set up. And we went into the back where one of the meshes were, and we were getting 50 megabits per second. But her up speed was very slow. I replaced the whole mesh with a single router, and her speeds where the meshes were went from 50 to 350.
Well, I've got my 450 and 22 down or up in both places, so
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Right.
And like
If
I
it ain't
say,
broke,
the TV's connected to it. It's a Samsung TV. So I can stream right directly to the TV. Apple TV works because it's plugged in there.
No, you don't need a lot of speed to stream. That's the one nice thing.
Bob, I found
Roger.
a setting in Zoom. So
Yeah.
try to share your screen and choose Finder.
Okay. Basic,
It's not there.
it's not there. Text
Okay.
edit pages, mail, Safari, mail. Under advanced, I get slides as virtual background, audio, video, content from second camera. Nope, not here.
I think you have to set it before the meeting, Roger.
Well, I got a message saying that setting was changed. And here's my Finder.
Yeah, I can see the Finder in the share button,
I can't see anything.
but I'm only running one monitor.
No, I'm running
Yeah.
2 monitors.
We're not seeing your desktop, Roger. We're just seeing.
We're only seeing the Finder menu.
Yeah, we're seeing the Finder though.
Yeah, you see, that's the
Okay.
Finder. So if I close this window,
Then we're back to you.
oh, okay. So I guess it just shows a Finder window, but not the Finder itself.
Right. That's what I was trying to do.
Wonder if I have a Finder window open.
I think you have to do it before the meeting and then we have to join. We could try it in between meetings.
It seems like when folks are running two monitors, Zoom gets a little weird. But I've never had trouble with any of the basic stuff on a single monitor system. With my sharing.
Oh, that's a good point. I did find, I went to accessibility and you can scroll down there on that one. I didn't realize you could, but if you scroll down, then you got some choices about that have to do with closed captioning and so forth, but I still don't know how to make it work and it's not showing up on my screen.
Yeah, I just opened a Finder window and now I could share this Finder window.
Not your desktop.
If I wanted to, but it,
There it is.
okay.
I'm
well,
kind of
something to-
curious. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Something to work on for further down the road. Sorry to
I agree.
step on you, Chris. Go ahead.
No, I was just wondering how folks are doing with their home internets from the various direct from the carriers with the wireless routers. think
Well, I had a client yesterday or Monday, which was yesterday. Anyway, she wanted to cut her Comcast bill. So I helped her get set up with Verizon home internet. And she lives at Country Club and 6th. And I had 3 bars on my iPhone. Well, actually on her iPhone on Verizon. But when the technician came, he couldn't make the Verizon home internet device work anywhere in the house.
Interesting.
But I've been using since March, T-Mobile's home internet, and it's working great.
What kind of speeds are you getting, Roger?
165 down and 20 up.
You have 5G?
Yep.
Okay.
I just changed all my gear here, Chris. So if see that white box behind me?
Right.
That's a 10G router. So I'm getting 1425 down right now.
Wow.
So I replaced all my switches with 2.5G switches and a 10G router.
Who's your provider?
A Comcast.
Okay. Yeah, I've never gotten over 925 on vertical flight router.
Probably that's because you're only using 1 gigabit switches and 1 gigabit hardware, which is what everybody uses. They upped their speeds on the 1 gigabit tier a few months ago to 1.2, but very few people are using it. And they said they're over provisioning. So they're actually giving you 1.4 gigabit down. But if your router only has a gigabit port, you can only get up to that 925 or 936, I think it caps out at.
Sure.
And that's what was
where
happening.
where are these switches you're using, Kevin?
This here is my router. I don't know if you can see this. It's a QNAP 10G router, and I have switches behind that desk and another one in the distribution panel.
And that switch sends it to Ethernet out to the rest of your house? Is that
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so all the equipment behind me goes through one switch, and then there's another cable from that switch, which goes to a second switch, which then distributes it throughout the house.
I see. Thank you.
So when I go in between devices, it transfers at 2.5 gigabits per second right now. Only because 10G switches were out of my price realm. They were 10 times as expensive.
Well, we have a couple minutes left for one more question, if there is one.
Roger, do you think that the situation with your client, that she was getting 4G on her phone, but the router required 5G? And it was too far from the tower?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
I'm just curious. I don't know how it works, but Yeah, I'm getting my phone through Verizon, and the gal online that I was talking to was very helpful, and she said, oh yeah, it's available in your area, but it's not available for you yet, which means it's probably oversaturated, or they need to put up more stake on the telephone poles or whatever you want to call it, so that there's more bandwidth. But I was just curious about the distance, because that's the one drawback to 5G, right? The radius to the tower is half of what it was with 4G.
Well, it's a lot less than half.
Oh, really? Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's like at the higher frequencies, which is what Verizon's using, it's like 500 feet.
That's open space,
Wow.
500 feet.
Yeah, line of sight.
Wow.
Yeah, and then when you go through walls, they drop that down to even less than 300 feet, so.
Interesting. I was wondering about that. Thanks, guys.
Hmm.
I mean, it could be a big drawback to home internet. You know, if any of us are looking at that,
Right.
better make sure we get it out there and try it out. And don't cancel your old service before you.
Would you say hello?
Tommy, mute your microphone.
Because
And now it's a good time to break and come back for the main meeting. Roger, do you concur?
I do.
Roger, you want to close the meeting and then reopen the room with those settings turned on? And we could play for a few minutes.
Well, everybody will have to rejoin. But I'd be happy to do that.
Well, now would be a good time to do it, I think.
Okay, so everybody understand that you're going to have to rejoin the Zoom meeting.
Okay.